Hi friends, welcome back to Manmata Krishna Food Tech channel. In this video, we are going to discussing about post-lethality recontamination of Salmonella in cooked frozen shrimps or ready-to-eat products, RTE products. In recent times, we have seen outbreaks of pathogenic bacteria like Salmonella across the globe. As a QA professional, I have been keenly observing the seafood industry for more than a decade. Observing the pathogen behavior in wet processing industry, I referred many articles, publications, CDC guidelines and GFSA standards and bad bug book published by US FDA. I referred many articles also before making this video. 13 to 14 process steps are areas, the possible sources of contamination or probability of recontamination, likelihood of occurrence, medium or heavy. Those areas I have selected, and in this video we will discuss about the likelihood of occurrence of recontamination after cooking step and the possible preventive measures, how to prevent recontamination. The preventive measures also we will discuss. Now let us start the video. As you know, in seafood industry or any wet processing industry, the water plays a major role, prominent role. Water is a universal solvent. In seafood industry or any food industry, water for processing needs more. Water used as ingredient and water used as a sanitation purpose, cleaning purpose, washing purpose. In every aspect, water is needed. So that is why first we will start from the utilities. The sources of water and ice. Yes, whenever in RTE section, if the facilities, food facilities having ready to, if the food facilities produces ready to eat or cooked frozen shrimps, after cooking the product has to fall on chill dip. So the water must be free from pathogenic bacteria and the ice also free from pathogenic bacteria. Means we have to provide potable water. We should have a strong water treatment mechanism or water treatment process or double check disinfection mechanism we have to equip. If we produce RTE foods especially, we must be very cautious. So water treatment process, if canal water, risk is medium, borewell. Okay, then water, there should be a dedicated team for treatment of water. And water treatment also, after borewell, the water has to goes to the sump tank. So suspended particulate matter or colloidal particles will settle down the bottom. Then after that silt or whatever it may be, it will settle down the bottom. Then the water will goes to the sand filter. Sand filter means macro particles will be filtered and algae and some other protozoans also can be filtered in sand filter. The next step is carbon filter, and carbon filter is removal of off odor or smell or taste also will remove the carbon filter. The next one is softener mechanism, resin. So will reduce the water hardness. Yes. After this process only, we have to pass the water for disinfection. Means we have to add the chlorine dosage system. Because before removing the impurities from the water, before removing the organic waste from the water, chlorine may not function well. If the water contains more impurities, chlorine residues and chlorine will react with the impurities, will produce carcinogenic. So we should strictly follow the water treatment process. After removing all this physical process and chemical process, then disinfection with sodium hypochlorite, which is cheaply available disinfectant used in all food industries, not only seafood, all food industries. Yes. After chlorine dosing, yes, we can pass the water to the water tank. Yes, water tank, if depends upon the water sources, that is your choice. You can equip the ozonization or not. That is, you have to decide. Depends upon the risk assessment. If ozonization is required, equip the ozonization or not. That is up to you. And after that, from overhead tank to the process line, when the water goes to from overhead tank to the process line, UV system we have to equip. Yes. If sometimes chlorine, if chlorine ppm may vary, or the overhead tank, maybe the water remains stagnant for several hours in the overhead tank, the chlorine concentration will get diluted or something. Or in the sump tank, if any chances of opening the sump door or overhead tank, doors closed should be closed, or if opened, then exposing to the pests or lizard droppings, bird droppings also will introduce the salmonella bacteria. So that is why after this chlorine disinfection, and again the water should pass through UV disinfection. Yes, UV disinfection. So we should keenly monitor those things. Every UV system should have the indicator, because UV depends upon the wavelength, it will act as a disinfectant. If the wavelength is above 234 nanometers, then it won't disinfect it won't oxidize the microbial flora which is present in the water. So UV also 234 nanometers or 180 or 190 nanometers to 234 nanometers, we have to maintain certain range. So then only it will effectively kill the leftover pathogenic bacteria present in the water. Then the water will go to the RTE section for as in a chill dip section or chill by following these mechanisms. And the UV system also, if your water is having hardness, what will happen? UV, the tube will form the scales. If the UV tube inside, if the scale formation will occur, the light cannot pass through the water. The intensity also not enough to kill the pathogenic bacteria or microbial load. That we have to check. And UV life also maybe 2 years. So that also we have to monitor the intensity also. Right. So this is the first step. Now the second possible sources of recontamination of salmonella after cooking step. Utilities air also. Through contaminated air means airborne contamination of pathogenic bacteria from low risk area to high risk area. The pre-processing hall or beheading centers are processing non-cooking activity. Those are all comes under low risk areas. And the condensation also. If the high risk area having poor ventilation and low air pressure, means from the low risk area to high risk area, the air contamination, the bacteria can reintroduce into the cooked product. Airborne contamination from low risk area to high risk area are through condensation, water dripping by poor ventilation in high risk area. Also the possible sources of recontamination after cooking. How to prevent those kind of airborne contamination of pathogen in RTE sections? Yes, the preventive measures is we have to equip air handling unit, AHU. Air filters also should filter the contaminated particles in air. The pure air should supply to the high risk area. As a QA team or QC team, we have to establish the sampling frequency, air sampling frequency. Depends upon the risk assessment. So we have to monitor the air load, bacterial load in environmental samples, means air samples we have to collect from the positive airflow system. Always the air should flow from high risk to low risk area. So we have to equip air handling unit for positive airflow. And the ventilation also required. Proper ventilation, otherwise the dripping, condensation will occur. That is also the possible sources of recontamination in cooked products, cooked salmon after cooking step. Yes, after cooking step, the product has to expose to chill dip, then after infeed IKF, then IKF, after IKF then glaze dip, again rehardening the glaze and then packing. These are all the steps are there. So environmentally, the pathogenic bacteria can be reintroduced if contaminated air or if condensation in high risk areas. We can prevent by this way. And we have to analyze the possible sources of condensation. If possible, equip the dehumidifiers also. Besides equip positive airflow, air handling unit, we have to equip. As per the GFSI guidelines, there are no any standards for air filters. There are no any standards, but we have to equip the air filter, depends upon the air quality in our food facility, in our surroundings of the food facility. And we have to monitor on regular intervals also. And the air collecting duct should be always in upward direction, should collect the fresh air instead of stagnant or contaminated air. So this is the second step and the sources of contamination and its preventive measures. Now we will go for the third step. Third possible sources of recontamination after cooking shrimps in RTE products, cooked frozen shrimps, is aprons, uniforms, gumshoes, PPEs. So commercially sterilized aprons or dedicated aprons, dedicated gumshoes should be required in high risk area. Otherwise, contamination through improperly sterilized aprons in high risk area or contamination, possible sources of recontamination of salmonella through the workers from low risk area to high risk area with the same uniform or with the same aprons. That is also the sources of contamination. At no circumstances, workers cannot be allowed into the high risk areas. There should be a dedicated uniform for high risk areas, dedicated aprons for high risk areas, dedicated gumshoes for high risk areas. It should be cleaned, disinfected, sanitized, and regular daily. For every ship, we have to provide. In high risk areas, to prevent the recontamination of salmonella or any pathogenic bacteria, Listeria, workers should wear commercially sterilized uniforms and aprons which are exclusively dedicated for high risk areas, and also workers should wear dedicated footwear also, should not go outside with the footwear and should not go to the restroom with the footwear. What is commercially sterilized aprons or commercially sterilized uniforms? Yes, there are two kinds of uniforms or aprons. One is clinically sterilized uniforms or aprons, and the second one is commercially sterilized uniforms or aprons. In our food industry, in our RTE section, we doesn't require clinically sterilized aprons. That is only in the operation theaters doctors will use. Means bacteria count should be nil and pathogens should be not detected. Whereas commercially sterilized aprons means bacterial count, some viable count might be there and there should not be any pathogens. So that's why in high risk area, the facilities should provide commercially sterilized uniforms and aprons. Yes, most of the food facilities, in-house laundries are there. But whether the in-house laundry sterilize the apron or uniforms to a commercial level or to a viable level, so the QA team should collect the swab samples after sterilization, after washing step, after sterilization. If you have in-house laboratory, in-house laundry. If you have third-party laundry, if you have outside laundry, outsourcing, then we have to audit the laundry as and when required. The frequency also based on the risk assessment, monthly auditing or quarterly auditing or yearly auditing, we have to decide. If outsourcing laundry is a separate area for keeping soiled cloths as well as cleaned cloths. Is there mechanical dryers are using to dry the cloths or sun drying they are using? Those are the points we have to take into consideration. Is there using synthetic detergent come disinfectant? See, nowadays synthetic detergent also having disinfectant properties also. What kind of detergent they are using? The detergent contains disinfectant properties also or not, we have to check those things also. And is there any heat sterilization mechanism after that? Also we have to verify, and how they are supplying to our facility also on daily basis. We have to collect the samples also for viable count, or whether the aprons or uniforms fit to handle in high risk area or not. We have to establish the frequency. If in-house laundry, there should be a separate area for soiled cloths and cleaned cloths. There should not be any cross contamination. And the third one is home washed uniforms or aprons. Home washed means workers can take to their home and they will wash there. That should not be encouraged. That should not be entertained. Because they will sun dry the cloths. Birds can drop or they will mix the cloths with soiled cloths. Chances of contamination more. If you give the permission to the workers to wash at their home and they bring back the uniforms and they can allow them to work in high risk area, that is big problem. Either you should provide in-house laundry and wash the cloths, and daily every shift we have to provide commercially sterilized apron, or if outsourcing laundry we have to visit, we have to monitor, we have to assess either they are producing commercially sterilized aprons or not. Now the fourth possible sources of recontamination of Salmonella or Listeria after cooking style is primary packaging materials. Yes. Why? Because the primary packaging material comes under food contact surfaces. Yes, those material can directly contact to the food. After cooking, we have to pack in primary packaging material. So that is also the possible source. We have to conduct the risk assessment. So it should, the risk factor also, it should be ranging from medium to high, depends upon the suppliers, or low to medium. If the suppliers, manufacturers, cotton manufacturers or polythene manufacturers, as per the GFSA guidelines also, we have to visit the packaging material suppliers or manufacturing facility. Are they hygienically handling the packaging material, especially primary packaging material? Are they hygienically packing? Are they hygienically transporting? What kind of rodent control measures they are taking within their manufacturing facility? What kind of lizard control they are taking within their manufacturing facility? What kind of personal measures they have been implemented? These are the points we have to take it into consideration. Nowadays, many packaging industries are available in India. So there is an unhealthy competition between packaging manufacturers. So we have a chance, we can choose the supplier who can meet our specifications. So they should follow the basic sanitary guidelines and personal hygiene behaviors and pest control measures while manufacturing, especially the primary packaging materials. And the secondary packaging material also, they should maintain the same pattern. We have to audit the manufacturing facility, suppliers of the primary packaging material. That is one step. And once the vehicle comes to our factory, so before unloading the packaging material, we have to assess, we have to check the vehicle condition, we have to check the any oil spillages, we have to check the ingress of any pest incidents or any evidence of pests. Then only we have to unload the packaging material. In a closure condition, they have to transport. And in our bulk packaging material store also should be well ventilated and rodent free, and should be well controlled measures also we have to implement, because lizards can transmit pathogenic bacteria, rodents also can transmit pathogenic bacteria. These primary packaging material directly contact to the food. After cooking, the shrimps can be packed in these packaging material. So this is the one sources of contamination. Not only these packaging material suppliers and ingredient suppliers also. Yes, like phosphates, non-phosphates, salts, or some dyes, or some color additives. Also, sometimes we have to mix after cooking. So that also will introduce the pathogen recontamination after cooking. So the ingredient store also we have to maintain in a proper manner to avoid pest ingress or pest infestation, and proper hygienically we have to handle those areas. That's all about the part 1 video. Due to this lengthy, so I made this video into 3 parts. So in our part 2 video, we will discuss the remaining